The crystalline spires of the Zephyrian Council chambers hummed with nervous energy as Ambassador Veltar reviewed the distress beacon's trajectory for the 100th time. 3 cycles had passed since they'd sent the galaxy-wide call for aid, and still no response from the major powers. The hegemony was too distant, the collective too bureaucratic, and the Federation, well, they'd made their position clear about primitive conflicts. Still nothing from the core worlds, Liza Chen muttered, adjusting the translation matrix on her wrist console. As Earth's first xenobiologist to achieve diplomatic status, she'd spent 2 years learning Zephyrian customs, but watching an entire species face extinction still made her stomach churn. James Rodriguez looked up from his tactical display, his weathered face grim. The former Marine-turned-security chief had seen enough war zones to recognize hopelessness when it stared him in the face. The Devourers will reach the outer settlements in 6 days. After that, he didn't need to finish. Everyone had seen the holofeeds from the border worlds. The Devourers weren't just conquerors, they were erasers. Wherever their biomechanical swarms passed, they left nothing but empty space and drifting minerals. No ruins, no graves, no memory that life had ever existed. Perhaps, Veltar's translator crackled, we were naive to believe anyone would answer. Liza felt something cold and sharp twist in her chest. Throughout her career studying alien life, she'd marveled at the diversity and beauty of the galaxy's inhabitants. The Zephyrians were poets and philosophers, their crystal cities growing like living art across their world. They'd never developed weapons more sophisticated than ceremonial blades because they'd never needed them. Their first contact with violence had come from the stars. You weren't naive, she said quietly. You were decent. There's a difference. James pulled up the tactical overview. Red markers showed Devourer positions advancing like a plague across the sector. The Zephyrian defense fleet, a handful of converted research vessels and mining. Ships showed as pitiful blue dots standing between the swarm and 3 billion innocent lives. What about that signal we detected yesterday? James asked. The one from the Sol system? Liza's head snapped up. Earth? That's impossible. We're the only humans out here. Not Earth, Veltar corrected, his crystalline features shifting. To what Liza had learned indicated confusion. The signal identified itself as Terra and claimed to represent something called humanity. The 2 humans exchanged glances. Earth had been quiet on the galactic stage, content to send small diplomatic and research missions while the major powers carved up territory and resources. Most species barely acknowledged humanity's existence. What did they say? Liza asked. We thought it was some kind of translation error, Veltar admitted. They said, hold the line, the monsters are coming. A chill ran down James's spine. He'd heard that phrase before in a dozen different wars on a dozen different worlds. It wasn't the kind of thing civilians said. The chamber's main display suddenly flickered to life. A new contact had appeared at the system's edge. No, not one contact. Dozens. Hundreds. The sensors showed massive heat signatures dropping out of faster-than-light travel with the precision of a military formation. By the eternal crystals, Veltar whispered. What are those? Liza stared at the display, her xenobiologist's mind struggling to process what she was seeing. The ships were wrong. Not wrong like alien technology she didn't understand, but wrong like something that shouldn't exist. They were too big, too angular, too clearly designed for one purpose. Those aren't exploration vessels, James said, his voice carrying the weight of recognition. Those are warships. The communication array crackled to life. A voice spoke in clear, unaccented galactic standard. Zephyrian Council, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Colonial Fleet. We received your distress call. Liza felt her knees go weak. Chen was a common name, but the coincidence seemed impossible. Be advised, the voice continued. We are moving to engage the hostile force designated Devourers. All civilian vessels should maintain safe distance. To our diplomatic team on world, sorry we're late. Traffic was murder. Veltar looked between the 2 humans, his crystalline features shifting through several expressions Liza couldn't identify. "You knew they were coming." "No," Liza said slowly, watching the tactical display as the human fleet arranged itself into attack formation with mechanical precision. "We didn't know. But we should have." The first engagement began 18 minutes later. Liza watched in stunned silence as the human ships tore into the Devourer swarm with weapons she hadn't known existed. Particle beams that could crack asteroids, missile systems that thought for themselves, and something the tactical computer could only identify as kinetic kill vehicles, moving at significant fractions of light speed. But it wasn't just the technology that shook her. It was the tactics. The Devourers had evolved to fight civilized species, beings who valued life, who hesitated before committing to violence, who tried to minimize casualties even among their enemies. The humans fought like Devourers. "My God," James breathed, watching a human cruiser ram directly through a biomechanical cluster, its hull glowing with energy discharges. "They're not trying to drive them off, they're trying to kill every last one." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Devourer swarm was gone, not retreated, gone. The human fleet had pursued every fleeing ship, hunted down every escape. Pod sterilized every drifting fragment that might carry their essence. Admiral Chen's voice returned to the communication array. "Threat neutralized. Zephyrian space is secure." Veltar found his voice first. "Admiral, how did you know to... Come? Our distress beacon couldn't have reached Earth." There was a pause then. "We've been tracking these things for longer than you know. Earth has enemies, Ambassador. Some we've made, some we inherited, some we became. But we learned something. A long time ago, when the monsters come knocking, you don't negotiate. You don't hesitate. You don't show mercy. They'll never return." Liza stared at the tactical display, where human ships were conducting systematic sweeps to ensure nothing remained. "What are we?" she whispered. James put a hand on her shoulder. "We're what happens when a species gets good at surviving." Later, as the human fleet prepared to depart, Admiral Chen sent a final transmission. "The galaxy's a dangerous place, Zephyrians. Beautiful species like yours need protection. Earth is offering an alliance not for resources or territory, but because some things are worth preserving." Veltar accepted immediately. As Liza watched the human ships disappear into faster-than-light travel, she finally understood humanity's place in the galaxy. They weren't explorers or diplomats or traders. They were the monsters other monsters feared. And sometimes that was exactly what the galaxy needed.